listening to the Betmaker Show. This is the PGA Greenbrier betting odds preview for Monday, September 9th, 2019. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
Time to tee it up. It's one of our favorite segments of the week. That's when the one, the only Cam Stewart jumps in the hopper. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas, Cam Stewart north of the border. From what I can understand, it's we've got European golf and now the fall swing with points that count towards next year on the PGA Tour. I got to get Cam calmed down and focused to dive into golf, which is a calming, soothing. Never have the bad beats in golf that you have in football. Oh, wait a minute.
Lions and Buccaneers. Maybe the lesson is don't bet on bad teams, Brian. But I'll tell you, week one into the football season, I'm already going like
never. I don't remember any time that's ever happened to golf.
Oh, God, no.
Like CT Pan never hit a Volunteers Gatorade bottle.
It's unbelievable, though. It's just absolutely unbelievable, Brian. Like, I want to get into the golf. Like, I love the Lions all week. They're up 18 going into the fourth. I smash that game. I have them everywhere. And, and then they just, I don't even know what to say. Matt Patricia and his timeouts, whatever. Anyway, it's a golf segment. I think the guy's a student, but whatever. Four!
Oh,
boy.
Yeah, literally. It's like when you watch the golf tournament and you sit there and the guy hits it over into the rough and they line him up and the guy's got a knockdown 3-iron. He's got a hit with a 8-foot window and the fans are just lined up like right there. The ball's below the guy's feet. You're sitting there going, I wouldn't stand there if you paid me.
Oh, I
was like, what happened to you with the Lions game? Literally, you were a fan 18 yards, and finally, for the first time in golf, the guy shanked it right into somebody's temple.
Yeah, right into my face, and I'm starfished in the rough, and they can't find me.
Starfish!
Welcome to week one, baby. I'm already tapping out.
Well, if it's any saving grace, in last week's segment, Cam Stewart said, watch out for Paul Casey.
Yeah, I did. I say, watch out for Paul Casey, Brian. And it was interesting, too, a British guy, going back with success on the American Tour to the European Tour. And the thing is, Paul Casey's one of those guys, he's not going to getting the Tommy Fleetwood money or, the Rory McIlroy money. He's still, when you bet him, you wish you would get more. But it's very simple with Paul Casey. I say that again, guys. Paul Casey, now that he's won and got another one under his belt, if his putting is good, he'll win or be on the leaderboard every week. Brian, you know golf, right? And it's one of those things, too. It's kind of like a good vibe. You could ride it out for a few weeks. We saw it this year with a lot of guys. We talked about Sabatini earlier. Usually in golf, it's not just a one-week thing. When you get your mojo, it tends to last for about a month, 4 or 5 tournaments, and then that's when you don't get off these guys. It's kind of like a hot stock. We bought low, we're going to ride it out and see what we can do, and I have a feeling Paul Casey's going to be doing a lot of damage. But, hey, we got 2 tournaments this week. We're back on the PGA Tour, and we got a European Tour event, too. Golf back in full swing.
All right, let me ask you this, because I'm going to say this, and it's funny, it just dawned on me now, because it just doesn't happen that often. But you mentioned Casey. Casey goes over there. He basically spent the whole year on a PGA Tour. He goes over, dramatic win, kicks the door down, 4 guys tied, 3 holes to go. He goes birdie, birdie, par. I love the European Tour. I bet Europeans all over the place in the majors and a handful of them when they're over here on the PGA Tour. But the reality of it is, and the world's a smaller place and there's great golfers over there. But the reality of it is, if a solid PGA Tour guy goes to a European Tour event, at the depth of the field, sure, a guy or 2 can step up and have a great week. But almost by default, a PGA Tour member that goes to a European Tour event, literally, and it's reflected this week. Patrick Reed's 8-1. He's played on both tours. He does well. So I don't even know how to verbalize that because I love the European Tour. I love Europeans in majors, But if a PGA regular is going to a European Tour event, he sticks out like a sore thumb.
It's a great point. You look at Patrick Reed this week at the KLM Open. He's the favorite at 8-1. And the next guy you have is Thomas Peters at 12-1 and Martin Keimer at 16. I'm looking at an average player on the PGA Tour, Troy Merritt, who's 35-1 in this tournament at the KLM. I wouldn't even put him at 30. I'd put him at worse odds in the Greenbrier, Brian, probably around.
Oh, he'd be 80 in the Greenbrier.
I was going to say 66, maybe, like something around there. But in that field, I'd probably put Merritt on the Blessing Stewart Sportsbook. Yeah, between 66 and 75, maybe 80 if you're looking at it, because there's other guys there. And that's the point we're trying to make. Troy Merritt's 35 at the KLM, and we would have put him at double the odds at a tournament in the Greenbrier where there's some good players,
Reed's
but not
8-1, Peters
field.
12, Keimer, go ahead, you say it. I like when you say it. He's 16-1, Sergio 16-1.
Juice Luton playing with the Queen of Hearts, 16-1. This is a perfect example. Juice Luton at 16-1. Sure, he can win the tournament, but you can't be having Juice Luton at 16-1. Yeah, like if we go into a court of law, Brian, that's all you have to do. You go up and say, "I rest my case, Juice Luton." Right, it's done. Come on.
If this means, I hope there are people out there. You have friends, and certain things have happened in your life or whatever. And whenever something happens, you instantly think of your friend or that thing. The problem is, Cammie and I now, my God, pal, 14 years, 15 years.
That's right.
And we've been talking, doing shows together, and literally, there are probably 20 guys that we've assigned nicknames to on the golf circuit. And every time I see that guy, I'm thinking that's what we call him, and I'm thinking of you. And probably at the top of the list is when, there's a ponytail sticking out the back of the hat. It's Juice Newton playing with the Queen of Hearts for Juice Luton.
Can you believe this guy? Juice Louton's a good player, right? We watch him, but is he in the same breath as Matt or even Westwood? And I'm looking Mike Lorenzo Vera in good form, but 16-1. I'm kind of looking at the KLM going, okay, well, there's some guys I would have put at 30-1. You have at 16. And if they win, you know what, Brian? That's the thing about golf. We can't bet everybody, right? We'll probably have, 3 or 4 guys in the KLM, maybe a 6-pack, four players that we like, and a couple bombs in the Greenbrier, right? Because we got to diversify the portfolio. We got other sports going on, and so it's hard to bet everybody. And at those odds, I think I'm going to stay away from Juice Luton.
The funny thing is, I love doing this too, because when you're going through it, sometimes. And we've done this before. I think we've done it right here, where we talk about guys and go, "Hey, wait a minute, look at this guy," and just not that we had ideas what we like coming in. I'm clicking on them real quick, and yeah, oh boy, how about this? How about Andres Romero, who shows up once every blue moon? And threatens to win a PGA Tour event, and usually it's on one of these undercard events, one of the smaller ones. It's like if they're playing the British Open, but they're playing a smaller PGA Tour. Andres Romero, and we're going, Andres Romero would do pretty good, maybe if he showed up over in Europe. And lo and behold, I'm going all the way back, Cam, the Omega European Masters on January 9th. He finished second.
Yep, he did. I remember. Andres Romero is one of those guys, Brian, you said it. He's an all-or-nothing guy. You know what I mean? Miscut, but when he's in contention, he can win and be right there. That's one of the things.
This tour, he shouldn't be 70.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Andres Romero, when I'm looking, Lee Slattery, 66, Donaldson, 70. I would have put Romero probably where Jorge Campillo is, around the 40-1 mark. You agree? Or Mikko Korhonen, 45-1, the talented Finn. That's where I would have inserted Andres Romero. Yes, I see a lot of line value there. The fact that he's 70 is, I think, a mistake.
Let's make some money tonight.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today, simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. Hey, real quick, and then we'll move on and get to the PGA Tour. Poor Jamie Donaldson, man. He was on the road to being a top 10 player in the world, and he's fallen. Wasn't there a Jamie Donaldson sighting not too long ago?
There was, Brian, and I know he had an incident with like a lawnmower or something with his finger. Like it was absolutely
doesn't sound good.
No, not when you're golfing. Yes, yeah. I'm thinking, oh my God.
It doesn't sound good if you're bowling.
No, it doesn't. It's bad enough if you're like Bob Vila's sidekick. You know what I mean? You need your hands to do the home repair. I don't know what's going on here with Donaldson, but he showed up. He had a miscut the other week, but it looks like he's rounding back into form. We're getting him under 100-1 at 71, but I'm in no mood to pick him, Brian. I will throw out a bomb to you, though. You're going to love this one, too. Burnt Ritthammer. I'm not even making this guy's name up. It's not, how do you like your burger, Burnt Wiesberger? It's Burnt Ritthammer. Ding, 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 ding. I'm like putting in nails with my Ritthammer. Watch out for this guy last week. He finished second. He's 110-1. And that's the thing about the European Tour. You get a lot of flyers, and you can find guys in the 100 to 150 range, Brian, that actually contend a lot more than in the PGA Tour, guys. So if you like, throwing darts, so he actually is in good form. He's like, there's some pretty good golfers around 100. Lombard, Southgate, so that's the thing. Sometimes we got to dig a little bit deeper, but Burnt Ritthammer.
I swear to you, kid, I do my radio show and do a bunch of events locally in Vegas out at Sunset Station. And it was like 2.5 weeks ago. I'm walking to the radio booth right before the radio show, and they had put in this James Bond slot machine. So that thing had been there where the James Bond theme was playing and everything. And for whatever reason, that didn't resonate. But then they just put a Wizard of Oz slot machine in, and literally as I'm walking to the booth, this lady, hits not the jackpot, but hits the portion of the game where the machine plays itself and you're winning.
Yes.
And it plays the tune, and it's playing Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. All right. That has been scarred and burned into my head. Right. I can't get Ding Dong, the Witch is dead out of my head. And I'm telling you, God forbid Hughes Loudon wins this tournament, because then it'll be playing with the Queen of Hearts, and I'll be looking for a propane truck to drive into.
No, it's true. You bring up good points before we get to the golf. Those machines are addictive. Like, I've seen my girlfriend at 5:00 in the morning with a vodka in her hand talking to the Sex and the City machine like they're friends. Like she's going up to the penthouse to get more vodka. I have no idea. Like, what? Yeah, it's crazy, Brian. Like, when you go to those casinos, just the sounds and stuff that you hear, I don't think people understand. Like, I've been in Vegas, for months at a time. You live there. Like, if you spend enough time there, no clock. You just hear ding, 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 change and all that stuff. Like, you must hear that stuff when you're staring at night. You're just staring at the top of your ceiling, and you must hear a lot of weird things before you sleep, buddy. It's not proper.
Let's go to the Greenbrier, pal.
Let's do it.
And this is a FedEx Cup point event for next season. Now, we leaned into this a little bit with guys that were coming out of the Corn Ferry Tour, which was still confusing to me. I had no idea that the Web.com tour didn't exist until 2 weeks ago. But that was a great event. We got a guy from that event we told you about last week, Tom Lewis. Let's just start there. It was going to be as good as this guy played, Cam, in a high-pressure event. I mean, he was tee to green, dominant, and then we said, they're waiting to find out, is he going to Europe where he'd been on the European Tour, or is he going to try to, stick a fork in the PGA Tour? Well, you would think it'd be a no-brainer because the purses are significantly higher here, although it's the back end of the European Tour event. These are big events. But he's choosing to stick it out here and maybe cash a ticket on some current form.
I'll tell you, 66-1, you said it, the way he dominated, Brian, and you know how hard those qualifying events, getting to the PGA Tour is tough enough. Winning by multiple shots, that tells you something. I'm against competition, and the big thing, pressure. How do you do under pressure? A lot of these young guys, they'll fold their tents. We've seen guys with first-round leads, 76, 78, they're done. Tom Lewis proved under pressure he can get things done. 66-1 is a must-play this week. There's a couple other guys that I look at. Cam Smith at 40-1. You talked about him a lot, Brian, too. That's a really good number for a guy that's peaking. Nah is the defending champion. Kevin Na at 30. Can he do it again? Yes, but and some of these interesting guys. Denny McCarthy's a nice young player at 66-1 that I'm kind of looking at as well. Isn't it unbelievable too, Brian? I'm just looking at the list and I'm going down and seeing Jason Dufner, a major winner, at 100-1.
By the way, it's funny. I was going to mention to you. It's funny. I was going to say, ball striking. Jason Dufner is still one of the best in the world. It's just he's a basket case on the greens. They've been on the shelf here for, whatever. I mean, you would hope maybe, doing some work on it, he could have a decent week in the greens. It's funny, though. I was going to mention Dufner to you. The other guy, DeChambeau, this is the kind of field and the time of year. Although I think Mr. Robato, gets in his own head. I think that's the problem with that stuff. When you're so super analytic, literally, you're pulling the club back and you got 37 swing thoughts in your head with launch angles and pi times 42. Like, just shoot yourself in the head and get it over with.
No, I'm with you. And I'm actually surprised. I thought they would put DeChambeau at about 12-1. I'm still not going to pull the trigger. And Brian, we're going to be on it. Viktor Hovland, when he wins, he is 16-1. He will win a tournament. The Greenbrier, I was really hoping for a 20+, but Viktor Hovland has been in every single leaderboard on the PGA Tour. It's a weekend field, and I can tell you one thing. I'd rather have Hovland at 16. Even though Sanjay M gets paychecks, he never wins. Beeman has been close. I feel Hovland is the type of player, and when he's in a stretch drive on Sunday, if he has to beat somebody, he's not going to be afraid. He's done it at every level. Oklahoma State, on the amateur tour, every time Viktor Hovland tees it up, he could be there. These books aren't stupid. I was really hoping for 20, but at 16-1, maybe you put more units on him. But if I had one pick, if you told me who is going to win this golf tournament, I would have to go with Viktor Hovland.
Are you seeing Ben on?
Yeah, 28-1.
Yeah, I can tell you, Ben On's.
He's close. He's been good, very good the last couple of events.
In this kind of event?
Yep, you're right. Weekend field.
I mean, I would take Ben. I would take Ben on against the DeChambeau in a matchup. I think that's an overlaid price. And then one other guy, you mentioned Cam Smith. I think is solid, but he can go low. Seems like he's been more consistent. He doesn't kick the door down, but he wasn't like the automatic fade job that he'd been in the past when he was in contention to the point where maybe now he can kick a door down. What's Scott Piercy at?
Scott Piercy. Yeah, I'm looking for Piercy. He is 40-1. He's a good player.
In the grand scheme of things, with the way things went in the last from current form perspective, I would say, and in what this field is, I would think 25-30 would be a reasonable number and warranted in a field of this caliber. And I think, the bottom line is he just doesn't kick the door down. But Piercy should contend.
Yeah, no. Piercy has been involved in tournaments on tough courses. He's played well. I think he'll do well at the Greenbrier. You talk about it, Brian. It's an old school type of golf course, which I like. I'd prefer to have more tournaments like this so guys just can't bomb it 3 fairways over and win. I'd like to see more straight hitters, be rewarded for being straight off the tee. And at 40-1, I agree with you. I would have probably put Piercy in the 28-33 range. So 40, I see a little bit of line value. And I got one bomb for you. We got to stick to what we did. We talked about it last week. My boy Doug Gim, he's 200-1. I'm probably going to do some top 20 and top 10 bets at that price and a sprinkle on the win. We've seen it before with Max Homa. When he won, Brian, I think he was 270-1. So it can happen on the PGA Tour, and it can happen in this type of event. If somebody from 100 plus is going to happen, it could happen at the Greenbrier.
I know I've told this story before, but I'll do it because it may not have been in this forum. I don't know what day of the week it is. It was a year ago, and I get a call from a friend. Says, "Come on, let's go play Southern Highlands," which is, a beautiful, fancy ass golf course here in Vegas. And hey, so we're going out there. Now it is one of these joints, Cam, where you need a caddy. And I'm like, okay, but the whole day I'm I'm running around with the caddy. Like I'm going in the trap to rake the bunkers. I feel guilty, This guy, it's my job. Stay away. Like, okay, whatever. So I got my head ripped off at this really nice course. But before we went out, we're in the pro shop. And the guy that set the thing up knew the pro. So we're all standing there checking in or whatever. And the pro stands there and says to him, yeah, last week, Kevin Na was here. Kevin Na practices at Southern Highlands, lives in Vegas. He said, yeah, Na was on the range last week, and he tried this new Titleist driver. Said he was just hitting the hell out of it. And he said, no doubt, no questions asked. No, I'm using that driver. Well, I believe it was Top Flight that he had a contract with. He gets out of the contract. He bails out of the contract and says, I'm hitting this other driver. I mean, this is amazing. And so he's telling us this whole story that he's burning his contract to take this driver out. It was the week before the Greenbrier. So now, they're playing the tournament. I don't do anything about it. So, of course, all weekend long, and then he runs away and hides and wins the tournament. And if you remember, so high. He's running around with just a regular shirt on, with no arm sponsorships, and he's wearing a hat, SOHI. So high. I'm like, okay, well, the guy's of Asian descent. I'm like, maybe it's like, some Korean cat food company. I don't know. When I thought so high, I thought he had a medical marijuana deal. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm watching, and then I'm sitting there, and with about 7 holes to go in the tournament, I'm going, you box of rocks. It's Southern Highlands.
But they call it
He's walking around with a so high hat, burned his contract, his sponsorship deal to play this driver, and went out and won the tournament at 80-1. He's your defending champ, ladies and gentlemen.
I remember that so high hat too. I'm like, what's this guy doing? Yeah, Na's always had some crazy sponsorships, but at 30-1, Brian, usually guys don't go back to back, but he has the perfect type of game for this. Unfortunately, we can't take everybody. I'm gonna really lay it down with Hovland at 16. I think you're right about Ben on at 28, and then we have to, after that, I think you have to do a little more shopping. And your boy, I really like what
we got to go, Lewis.
Tom Lewis at 66.
I'm with you on Lewis and Hovland, very much so, and think the Piercy's an overlay.
I agree. I like Piercy at that price is a very good play at 40-1. And anybody else, Brian? Like, is there one bomb that you think usually you have a trick up your sleeve? Take me to your leader, David Lingmerth, not in very good form. Lanto Griffin is still chasing him down from the qualifying tournament.
Well, I mean, if there's a prop, yes, no, will Lanto Griffin make the cut? I'm not sure he's going to make it to the parking lot after the first round.
That's a good point. Where's Harding? No, he's scared. He's scared. He thinks he might go to West Virginia and get clipped by some. He hired a guy in the tree with a bow and arrow. Oh, there's Lanto Griffin right there on the third hole.
Again, if you didn't listen to last week's podcast, Lanto Griffin, went 9 over par on the last 5 holes and cost Justin Harding his PGA Tour card.
And a lot of money. Unfortunately. Yeah, and I'm going to throw it down with our boy. I got to stick with the Longhorns. Doug Gim at 200-1. Brian, I'm going to put some top 20s in there. That's a good price. Who knows? You know what I mean? I'm actually surprised he was this high. I thought he would be probably around 125 to get 200. It's to me well worth spreading around, and you can get a nice price for a top 20 and a top 10.
He's worth the price of admission, which happens to be free.
Yes,
he's Cam Stewart.
Good one.
This is so much fun. He's so high.
So high.
We love talking golf. We're glad you're with us. Cam Stewart, Brian Blessing. Hey, we'll be back with whatever horror stories befall us on this week's PGA Tour event next week.
Let's make some money tonight.
Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed. or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com. And reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer, Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At Betmaker.com and The Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.